C++, the language of serious software engineering, the elite, the GOAT, the final boss of programming languages. But outside of these textbooks, in the real world, C++ code is chaos. Everyone writes it differently. We're going to fix that with clang-format, except developers cannot agree what it should look like. It's a total Wild West. This is the night of the pigeon wrath.
8.65% of them has clang-format file at any level.
So 8.6%. So clang-format is the only format in town, and only 8.65% of C++ projects use automated formatting. So it's a mess, and I'm part of that mess now. The C++ project, which started as an experiment, I was going to rewrite in Python, but now I've decided to clean it up and actually release it. I decided to use a clang-format to tidy it up, and on Linux you just get it with your package manager. On Windows, if you go to the LLVM website, you can get the LLVM compiler, and clang-format comes with it. You can just install it through VS Code and also classic Visual Studio as well. On Mac, you can get the LLVM package, or you can get it through your IDE, or you can also get it through the homebrew. So brew install clang-format. Rough off the shelf picks everything for you, and you don't have to choose anything. With clang-format for C++, you have to choose how to configure it. It comes with 7 styles. You're most encouraged to create your own style. So it's completely different than Black or Rough that come with strong opinions, that come with the PEP8 standard that everyone in Python follows. In the C++ world, everybody does their own thing, so that people who work in Mozilla, they just work for Mozilla and do that in Mozilla, and then people in Apple who do WebKit, they do WebKit, and then people in the GNU project do the GNU project, and people do LLVM do LLVM, and people who do code on Microsoft do code on Microsoft, and people in Chromium who are actually in Google do Chromium. So C++ isn't one ecosystem in the same way that Python is more like one ecosystem. And I did try to compare Mozilla to Django, try and prove that point. Every C++ project has their own format. I tried out these formats, and my favorite format for C++ from a big project turned out actually to be the MongoDB one. So I think the MongoDB had a really nice format. Quite like how the Mongo code is laid out. You have the type, you have the function name, you have the arguments, you have the opening bracket on the same line. Obviously, if you write C or C++, you can have your own strong opinions on what you want it to look like. But to me, that's a very clean code. They have very short files. It's all very tidy. The first 30 lines of the license, which is in every single file. Then you've got all the includes. But then the actual real code isn't too long. Lots of nested directories. Lots of readmes all over the place. So this is my clang-format file I made. So the C++ tells it that I want this as modern C++ code. I don't need to be like classic C or JavaScript or anything else that you can format. Don't want to set every option, so I'm just starting it based on the LLVM style. Index width of 2, just to save space. Mongo looked quite nice with that 4 they had there, but I don't want it to be excessively long and wrapped. I haven't quite got it down to 80. I might do it down to 80, but because this code didn't have clang-format on before, I wanted to reduce the churn. So one of the reasons why I picked some of these is to keep code churning as little as possible. Pointer alignment, so that's an interesting thing. Like, depends how you think about C++ code. So this is the classic C way of saying PTR is a pointer to int, whereas the more modern C++ way of thinking about it is PTR of type pointer to int. So they are exactly the exact same thing, but it's just a little like full of philosophical difference. So here, PTR is a pointer to an int, whereas this way is we're declaring the variable PTR and saying it's of type pointer to int. So it's just a kind of a different way of thinking. So for example, in the Google clang-format style, you get this by default, and in the LLVM, you get this by default. So by saying pointer alignment left, I'm going for this because my pointer is on the left. And the reference alignment is the same thing. Ref is a reference to an int, whereas this one, declaring the variable ref, is of the type reference to int. So here we're making the adjective, the type declaration int, and here we're making the type declaration reference to int. So it's the same, compiles to the same thing, but it's of a slightly different philosophical bent. So in the clang-format file, with the reference alignment, you can have left, you can have right, but you can also have pointer, which copies the value from this. So you generally want these two values to be the same. So if you want your pointer on the left, you want your reference on the left. If you want your pointer on the left, you want your reference on the left. And if you want your pointer on the right of the space, then you want your reference on the right of the space. You don't have to. It's not forcing you. You can make this right, but yeah, I think it would be odd. So I'm having the reference inherit from the pointer, so they're both left. The rest of it is about what we put on a line. So clang-format's first desire is to make it match the number of characters, and unfortunately that's all it really cares about. That's really what it cares about. It really cares about making things the right length, and it puts that above everything else. This is one way to lay it out, where the first argument is on the same line. So we have the type, we have the function name, and then we have the arguments. So the first one is aligned on the same line, and then the rest are aligned to match. I actually prefer it like MongoDB did here, like this, where the first argument is indented and then every other line is indented to go with it. And I seem to have ended up with 4 characters indent by Mongo. So again, instead of having all this blank space here, we just move everything to the left. So it takes 1 line longer, 2 lines longer, because you have a line break here, and then you have a line break after this. But every argument's on 1 line, and if you add another argument, it doesn't churn the whole thing. So on this upper one, if you rename this variable, all the other lines, so say I made this shorter, all these other lines would have to move left. If I made this longer, all these other lines would have to move right. But if I change this variable, these don't have to move. These just same. So if I make this longer or shorter, these stay the same. If I add extra arguments, these lines stay the same. So I think that reduces churn a bit in the PRs. I'm not a massive fan where it's decided to break the line in the middle of the assignment. Not a massive fan of that, to be honest. I think it could have carried on with this strong model has value bit, but you can't win them all. So again, I think this just wasted space here. I don't know what this space is for, to write the number of marks in. Then draw a smiley face in. So I prefer to push everything this way, even though it's less wide, it's narrower, but it's slightly longer because you've got this extra line break here and you've got this extra line break here. So you got the line break here and the line break here. So you've got an extra line break here and you've got an extra line break here.
We gotta make the most of our one night together. When it's over, you know, we'll both be so alone.
Originally I was going to turn off the sorting of the includes, so we didn't churn all these includes. But then I thought, well, I'll surrender on that and have a once-off churn. So in this PR, it churns all the includes. But from now on, we should hopefully have less churn because it'll be in alphabetical order. So in this one, it's formatted how I like it. And in this one, it's decided to unformat it like that and make it 1 line because it can. So with clang-format, if it can fit on, its main aim is to fit it into the line and don't go over the line. So I'd rather it didn't try to force everything on 1 line, but it wants to. And if you increase the column width, it just tries to pack more into 1 line. And if you decrease the column width, you end up breaking it at the assignment. So you have equals and then a blank, which is worse to read. So I haven't exactly managed to tune it perfectly yet. So that's how I wrote it in the editor, and then that's how we formatted it. So that is using a lot less width. Because these days computers have wider screen monitors than before and have higher resolution than before, but still. I think I can probably get this down to 80, but it's a lot of churn to do all at once. Kind of lose contact with your Git history. So that is broken there, and then it's made it 1 line. To be fair, it does look tidier, but it's not consistent behavior of always breaking on the left bracket. So what's it done here? So it's broken it at the space. I'm sorry, that's just ugly. You could have just broken it there where I like it being broken, and then it would all go there, it would all fit in nicely. But instead it's done this. Those could have gone to the left or would have been fine, but instead you've got this assignment and then a break. A bit ugly. This one, all these ors, it's packed them in and gone up to its line limit and then broken the line. I mean, potentially these could be 1 or clause aligned, would be a nice way to do it. Again, this function, move everything to the left, which is what I asked it to do, and it's doing what I asked it to do. And it's just, don't need this space here. It's more lines, but I just prefer space to be on this side than on this side. This one we have all these ands, and got 1 on the first line, 2 on the second line, 1 on the third line, and it's just packed them in as tight as it can within the line limit, which is not my strategy, not really human strategy. My strategy would be to make it seem readable. And so all these over here, it's moved over to here, which I just find much easier to read. Look at this. This is jagged here, depending on the length of these variable names and types. Whereas here, they're all in a nice line. They're always indented the same, regardless of how long the type is or long the variable name is. Okay, this one, it's decided it's too long, and then it's cut it there. I don't know. See, that one I much prefer, even though it's longer, it's less wide. I reckon I can get it down to 80 if I try hard enough at some point. You'd have a lot of breaking assignments and I'd have to rejig things around, which is totally possible and we can do that. With these string literals, I've done it like that. That does look a bit messy. There's no continuation character, no backspace, no bracket. The general point of I like it like a block. It's kept it, but it's more over here. So putting these in alphabetical order rather than the order they used in the file. These publics, I never know where to stick them. Sometimes they're kind of there, sometimes they're there. So it's picked somewhere for them to go. See, this here, it's decided it's too long and it's split it here, which is nice. Same here as well. Decided this is too long and it split it in a kind of rational way. Decided to move all this up to here. I should move these out rather than having all these exclusions. This is where the user's OS hasn't failed to create a temp file because their disk is full or their disk is broken. That's not really relevant to my code. I mean, it's not really my job to test the OS does what the OS is supposed to do, or that C is supposed to do what C is supposed to do. So this was a bit of a mess, and I moved that into card update body. Okay, yeah, so instead of having this stuff here, I moved this into its own thing. So that's nicer. That's what I should do generally. That's enough for now. I'm gonna keep tidying up this C++ code, trying to get it released as a binary, but also released as open source on GitHub. So come back for more of that. Please press the subscribe button, which is more of a recommendation button. If you subscribe, it doesn't actually show you my videos anymore, but the algorithm will recommend my videos to other people if you do, so that's helpful. Also, I have other videos, one of which will be over here. Also, tell me what you think, give me some comments, and you go and lint something.